Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It is the 25th of March 2022. My name is Kerry Holzman and today we're going to continue where we left off with this all-in-one Acer Aspire computer. In fact, let me turn it around so you can have a better look at it. Hope everybody's doing good today and we should have a good solid show here for you as we go through some follow-ups on this machine. When I broadcast live, I think a lot of people don't quite grasp when I'm working on a machine I've never seen before. There's a lot of speculation I have to do in order to keep the show moving because it's live. And so I'll address some questions from the previous show that I did not have answers to. And I'm going to start off by addressing whether or not the CPU that's installed in this motherboard is socketable and whether or not it's upgradable. And the short answer is yes, it is a socketable desktop CPU in most cases on a board this small. They're normally laptop CPUs that are used. However, to switch out the CPU, while it's possible, doesn't give us any benefit because we can't upgrade the cooling. And so this cooler, as you can see, what it's doing is these two copper pipes are drawing heat away off of this i3 CPU, and it goes into this fan that then blows it out the top of what appears to be the monitor from the other side. So if we put an i5 or an i7 or an i9 in here, we're looking at a bad situation with regards to controlling heat. Furthermore, there was some concern about whether or not to replace thermal compound. Some people have it in their head that if you're going to take it apart, you might as well replace the thermal compound. And while I would be on board with that if it were a familiar hardware that I was working on, it's never once resolved an issue with a computer. I've never seen a computer have an issue that replacing thermal compound has resolved. So while it's nice to do, it's unnecessary, and especially on an i3 CPU. If you look in my video library, you'll see that I've run an i3 CPU with no heatsink and no fan and put Prime 95 on it for half an hour and it never overheated. I would suspect we could probably completely remove the heatsink and fan and this thing would never overheat. But I don't need to try that. But there would certainly be no benefit to, to replace the thermal compound. We'd have to remove these 4 screws, and then this screw, that screw. It's a whole delicate piece of hardware. And if I were working on these day in and day out, that would be no big deal. If I didn't have 7 other customers waiting for me, it wouldn't be so pressured for time. And if I wasn't in the middle of a live show and people are hounding me about it, I would be able to address the concern on a one-on-one basis with the affected customer, not with people I'm just demonstrating my work to. So the whole idea of replacing thermal compound is really a hobbyist activity. It's really folks in IT, they don't really do that. As I mentioned, I've never seen it ever resolve a single problem. It's just something that gives people good feelings. It's an emotional thing and not a logical thing. And in this case, because it's an i3, I was quite surprised to see that it was socketed. I bet that wasn't socketed, but in fact it is. But that does us no benefit unless we have a bad CPU and we want to replace it with another i3 of the same generation. As I mentioned, moving up to an i5, an i7, or an i9 is going to result in thermal issues. The case isn't designed for that. So that's why the answers were as they were. And now that I've had some time to really study this, I can give you a more thought out answer. The memory I ordered from Amazon, I use this brand called Timetec, and that's the brand I used on the Dell XPS memory upgrade and the other Dell XPS memory upgrade, and I've had really great luck with them. It's very aggressively priced, and with Amazon I can get it here in hours. So after the show the other day, I went ahead and ordered this RAM, and it was delivered within about 12 hours after I ordered it. So I just went ahead and took the old memory out, which I have in this package here. And what I discovered was the model numbers on the RAM were not the same. There was one or two things that were slightly different. And I was trying to figure out how we got to 6 gigs of RAM installed, because that's how the machine arrived. And the module I could see said 2 gigs, and then they kind of covered up the top of the other RAM module with a part sticker. And after peeling the part sticker off, it revealed the other RAM module is a 4. So the RAM module that was underneath that I couldn't see, that's a 4 gig module. The other module was a 2 gig module. And both modules are made by SK Hynix, and I would imagine that's just how they shipped it for some reason. So both memory modules have been removed because we have no use for a 2 and no use for a 4. What we needed were 2 8s or 2 16s. Putting 2 16s in this would have cost twice as much and would have been of no benefit to the way that this customer uses their computer. So I went ahead and popped those in the other day, and I ran Mem Test on it for the 4 series of tests. There's 13 tests that it runs 4 times, and that passed as I expected it to. And this is the old RAM here. I went ahead and did some more cleanup with the air duster. And the air duster that I use, the prying tools that I use, the RAM that I used, all of those links for those products and other tools that I used on the show are in the video notes below the video. These speakers won't stay put because I have the unit vertical and they sit on posts, and the thing that secures them to the post is the back lid. So just kind of ignore that for right now. If I put them back up, they just fall right down. I want to show you the difference that RAM has made, because in most cases, when people bring me machines, moving from a mechanical drive to a solid state drive is usually a massive improvement in and of itself. However, with the way that this machine is designed, I saw a bigger improvement going to 16 gigs of RAM than I did going to a solid state drive. There certainly was a performance boost that was noticeable, but not as extreme as I was expecting. And that was for the reason I already said prior, was because the machine, the operating system, Windows 10, is running out of RAM, so it's emulating RAM off of the storage drive. And so that was causing these massive delays between when I would click something and then you'd wait, and then the computer would respond. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in right now and show you the difference of how fast this boots, and we'll click on some things and we'll see how responsive it is now if you compare it to the last show. Now, I did edit out all of the technical questions and answers part of the last show, because this video I'm making today is the completion, the finale of the video I started on Wednesday. And so this one will also be edited, and those two will be stitched together so that we have a start and an end, an opening and a closing in one video. So do know that that's coming. I don't want you to be surprised by that or to wonder why I'm doing that. A lot of people, when they're watching these videos after they've aired live, the live benefit doesn't benefit or have any interest to the majority of viewers who are going to watch the video and have no way to participate. So I'm getting people that are like, look, the video's 4 hours long, it should be an hour and a half. Because they weren't here at the time to participate, they don't understand or find any interest in the conversations that you and I have during the live shows. So though that is often now getting edited out just to keep the topic of the video on track and to make sure that people aren't discouraged by the video length, to find out what this process is, as the title says. My thanks go out to Kelly Stewart, who contributed a gift card for Amazon just before the show started, and of course Peter Laycock, who joins us all the way from Bonnie, Scotland, also sent an Amazon gift card. Both of these gentlemen are very, very generous, and I appreciate their support very much. I also want to thank 2 viewers who offered to send RAM they had to go in the machine, but I would not receive it in time. I have to get this to Marvin today And Marvin's here waiting. So we'll bring Marvin on here in just a minute so we can say hello. But I wanted to kind of get you up to speed with where we're at and what our plans are for today's show. And then if there's any other concerns or questions you have, I'll go ahead and give you guys a moment to ask those before we finish up. Essentially, all that I have to do today is turn it on and make sure that everything is responsive, the boot time is going to be faster, that everything's working like it should. Then I'll remove the 2 screws that are holding this pedestal on so I can set the screen back down. That's why I've got the towel here so we don't scratch the screen. We can put the back on and then put the pedestal and the cover back on, and then it can go right back to Marvin's wife, who I'm sure is probably missing it at this point. And then that will wrap up this project and make me available to move on to the next one. As I said, they've got a number of people that are waiting on me, and I'm trying to move through things as quickly as possible, but not so quickly that it will come back with a problem. And also, I'm not going to do unnecessary work because that's the opposite of working quickly. All right. Carrie Jason says, does Marvin have his PU-36 on him?
What's a PU-36?
Well, yeah, what is a PU-36? I thought maybe that's some military speak and you knew what it meant.
P-35 is high power. I don't know what a PU-36 is.
Okay.
Unless it smells.
Unless what? Unless it's a smell? Mark Baggett contributes $5. He says, I love the videos, Carrie. Keep up the great work. Hey, thank you, Mark. Let me scroll through the chat. I think I'm missing some conversation here. It's hard to keep a train of thought. It's like I'm counting 895, 896, and someone's going 1487. It's really hard. Yeah, exactly. So let me just see if I've missed any questions here that I can address before we kind of finalize this project. I see Bob R. and Bob Connors and Luke Greenia have joined us. There's Thomas Backenstow joining us from Pennsylvania. Hey, there's Peter Laycock and Ada Rivera, Captain Blinsky, Rick Hubbard, Jerry Spann. I also want to take a moment to thank, oh boy, I don't have his name here. I have a viewer, and his name is being tested now. Let's see, I've got it here somewhere. There it is. Anthony Donardis. And Anthony had a graphics card he didn't have any use for, and asked if he sent it, if I would have a use for it. And it looks like it's an NVIDIA. Got to get the glasses to read this. There's no model number marked on it anywhere I can see, but its manufacturer is Gigabyte. They got their name plastered all over it. But somewhere on this card, it should identify what model it is. It looks like it's a 970 OC 4 gig. So it looks like a GTX 970. So thank you to Anthony for sending this. I'm sure we can use it in one of the AMD builds. I got stuck with some AMD builds because they require GPUs. And by adding the GPU, it doubles the cost of the build. So they've been kind of set off to the side, kind of waiting for them to be able to put at least like a 1050 or something in there. Because it's almost cheaper for me to just buy a different AMD CPU right now with integrated graphics than it is to add any graphics. And in the integrated graphics on the AMD chip may be better, but then I'm going to be stuck with an AMD chip. So I end up getting stuck with stuff that I don't sell parts, and I won't send just parts. I don't do that. So they end up going onto an inventory shelf to be used in a future project yet to be determined. And so with this graphics card, I can at least get one of those systems finished and then perhaps offer it available to people who are interested in perhaps purchasing it. This will be the last year, 2022, that I will offer systems for sale. Beyond that, well, let me rephrase. 2022 is the last year that I will be building this many computers. Starting 2023 and beyond, I'll do no more than one computer every 2 or 3 months, and even that I want to reduce. So if you want to get a computer from me, this is the year. After that, it's just something I want to move beyond. I never intended to go backwards to building computers. That's what I did. Yeah, I've done that throughout my career, but I started my career building computers, and I enjoy it, but it's a little too much for me right now. I think I found some inventory I forgot I had, so I'm up to 51 computers right now, and I have shipped numerous veteran giveaway computers and those liquid coolers. I've done more shipping this last week than I've done this entire year. And let me shout out these folks, the name of the recipients of the giveaways. I've got their names over here. So a shout out to Carl in Arizona, Ross in Missouri, and congratulations to Carlos in Tampa, Florida. Congratulations to David in Traverse City, Michigan. To Dakota in Pennsylvania, to Michael in Corning, New York, to Jonathan Ellison in New York, to Ronald in Ohio, to John in Washington, to John in Nebraska, to Steve in Arkansas, and to Brian in Iowa. So that's our selected giveaway recipients at this time, and there will be more opportunity to receive there are other giveaway computers, some intended for veterans. I have 3 more veteran PCs, 2 Chromebooks, and I have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, about a half dozen other giveaway machines thereabouts that will all be upcoming, including some routers and I don't know, any other stuff around here I want to get rid of. And of course, on these giveaways, when it's involving hardware, I cannot ship outside of the United States. Despite that, people still ask me, and I just delete their messages. So if you inquire about shipping individual parts, I don't ship parts. If you inquire about shipping outside the United States, I don't ship outside of the United States. There's no exceptions. I want to make sure that everybody who's a viewer in the United States, especially in the lower 48, has an opportunity to receive something from me before any individual viewer receives multiple items. For that reason, if you have been selected as part of a giveaway, you are ineligible to receive any other giveaway, so that somebody else who has not will have an opportunity. And I hope you understand that, so that you're not just entering every giveaway I have just to get something, because there might be a giveaway that you really, really need, but you've made yourself ineligible by accepting something that you didn't need. So think that through and understand that's your chance. And I want to make sure that the stuff I'm giving away is going to people who it would benefit the most. And look, once it's out of my hands, it's not really an issue for me what gets done with it. If people smash it with a hammer or they resell it, I have no idea what happens to it and don't really care. But for that reason and the reason of favoritism or any bias or unfairness, I want to make sure that everybody in the USA has an opportunity to win. and receive a gift, but I also want you to know that outside of the United States, there are going to be offers for software, things like we've done in the past, RoboForm or Acronis, things of that nature. And even if it's not a giveaway, it will be an opportunity to purchase the software for a very limited time at a significant discount. I'm in talks with Acronis right now because I was made aware that Acronis has a version of their software that has no antivirus. And that was my biggest hesitation. But they have something called Acronis Essentials that is the Acronis software without any antivirus. And I'm talking with Acronis right now, trying to work out a deal for you guys, not just for the Essentials. I mean, it would be across the board, the discount. So some of you who want the antivirus version could have it. But it is all subscription-based now, similar to Adobe and Office 365. Acronis has decided to, and TeamViewer, Acronis has decided to move to a subscription-only market. Now, for me as a tech builder, or as a system builder, I always need to have the latest version of Acronis. So for me, whether I have a subscription or I have a perpetual license, it doesn't make a difference because I always need the latest version. But do bear in mind that there's no alternative. There are no more perpetual licenses offered by Acronis. And when Office 2021 support ends in 2026, I don't know that Microsoft will offer any more perpetual licenses for Office. So everything's moving to subscription. And do know that I'm doing my best to make sure you guys get a really good discount, but it will be for a limited time. So be prepared, that's coming hopefully soon. And Merle says he thinks you probably can't upgrade this CPU unless it's another 35-watt CPU. That's a good point as well. The higher the wattage, typically the faster the chip is, the hotter the chip gets. And we have a fixed external power supply like a laptop that may simply not be able to deliver that power. And if it could, you'd have an overheating issue. So, but that's another reason why you wouldn't want to change out the CPU for anything more powerful besides the heat issues. But the heat issues and the power requirements are directly related. So thank you for pointing that out. And let me just scroll through the chat room here. And a thanks to all the kind viewers, as I mentioned, had a couple of viewers like Patrick Rusaw, who said, hey, I've got some spare DDR3 that'll might work in this. Because of the timeline I'm on and the amount of people I have waiting, well, I appreciate the offer. I needed to have something here overnight. So I appreciate the intent. It's the thought that counts. And let's see. I'm just looking to see if there's any questions here in the chat room. Paul wants to know when Mitch will be back on. Well, Mitch helps me when I do computer builds. And once the computer is built, unfortunately for me, I can't have him take care of the shipping, the packing, the cable management, the software installation or configuration. And so we have a lot of builds that Mitch and I have started together, but it's up to me to finish them. And as I mentioned, I think I've got about 51 machines here, and I have to finish them by myself. So as you can imagine, I don't want to make that 52 or 53. So at this point right now, I don't have anything scheduled yet because I am trying to climb out from a mountain of computers I have buried myself in. Yeah. Appreciate the question. And Mitch is doing well. I was just talking with him the other day. He's got another video project that he's working on. And Fernando's saying hello. There's Jim Maloney saying hello. And let's take a look through some. What are we looking at? Vern Mahorny says that's a liquid cooler. No, so the definition of a liquid cooler would require a radiator for the fluid to flow through. But what you're seeing are the heat transfer pipes. And if we cut those open, I do believe they have some fluid in them to assist with heat transfer, but the fluid doesn't move apart from whatever happens with physics as the fluid heats up, but it doesn't cycle around in the sense of a liquid cooler. So you're kind of right in that it does have liquid in it, but the liquid doesn't flow. It does sort of move back and forth within the copper tube if we were to cut that tube in half. But there's no radiator or pump.
Not this one, this is an Arizona machine, there's no liquid.
There's no, yeah, right, it would have evaporated, right? No, if we cut those, he's kidding. If we cut those pipes open, no, there's it helps with the assistance of the heat transfer, but it's all sealed and the fluid doesn't have a pump or a radiator. So we don't define that as a liquid cooler, even though there is some liquid in the cooler. But I could understand that misunderstanding. Yates Network says, hang around Kerry Hulsman for a while and good things happen. Business is really sparking up again. Good lessons, great wisdom here. Oh man, my business has been booming since this whole epidemic started, and it's only gotten busier. It's the strangest thing, and a number of opportunities, very unique opportunities have come up that I'm interested in pursuing and exploring. One is working more regularly and directly with Amazon. And I've had several meetings this week, not only with Acronis, but with Amazon. I've talked with the folks over at Anchor. I've had discussions with the folks at a couple of other software manufacturers, and trying to see if we can make things happen. PhotoRay says, I shudder to see what a mountain of cable management I have waiting there. Yeah, and that's just what's already been built, right? And that's why I want to sort of step away from the building for a while. I'm a little burned out on it. And this Studio B is so crowded with computers, it is an obstacle course to walk around here. So it really makes me smile every time I ship something that I've removed an obstacle out of my way and somebody is benefiting from receiving it. Neil Garrett says, has a question. He says, what is a good link for refurbished computers? I would recommend Amazon or Newegg and just type in the search Dell renewed or Dell refurbished and take a look at some of the off-lease laptops and desktops that are available for purchase. The great thing is Amazon and Newegg make deals with the shippers. The fact that you can get that shipped for free, that costs me about $60 to ship, and they're doing it for a fraction of the cost. And you know, sometimes when you see like a Corsair 200R case being sold at Amazon for $150 and you get all offended, you're like, that's ridiculous, that's a $65 case. Okay, if I paid $65 for the case, I pay another $6 in sales tax. And then if I'm going to ship it to you, it's going to cost me about $40 to ship it to you. So we're at $105. Amazon's going to take a commission from that $105, and I'm the one who has to do all the work. I have to invest to purchase the case and store the case, and then I have to deal with the administrative task of addressing and making a label and taking it to the shipper and having it shipped and collecting the receipt and sending the tracking number and then potentially having a return, right? Somebody returning something. So what's in it for me to do that? There's got to be a little bit of meat left on the bone to make it worthwhile for me to go through all that effort. And so if I make 40 bucks, if I make 20 bucks, we're already now selling that $65 case for upwards of $150, 130 to 150, because I don't get the free shipping that Amazon and Newegg offer because of the sheer volumes that they do. But you can be you can make that work for you by going directly to Amazon or Newegg and making the purchase from there. Not that everything they sell has free shipping, but even when they charge for shipping, it is about 1/4 to 1/5 the price you and I would pay retail going to any shipper. And of course, they don't have to find a parking spot and pick the boxes up and carry them into the store and wait in a line. So, it's just you click the mouse a couple times. And take a look at the different models of Dells are the ones that I recommend, and see if any of those look appealing to you. Bear in mind, you get what you pay for. So while they do have machines in the $150 range, they also have much better machines closer at the $300 range that aren't quite as old and therefore will have a longer lifespan. So set your expectations accordingly to what you're willing to spend. Let's take a look here and see where I left off in the chat room. Oh yeah, we need to check for a new BIOS on this too. That's I think the last thing I need to do, and we'll do that live here in just a moment. Let's see. Contributions, oh, I missed a few. Michael Taylor contributes £2. He says, good live stream. PDK Gamers contributes $9.99 in the super chat. He says, hello, Kerry. I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy as a child, but thanks to you, I built multiple systems. You're an inspiration to me, and thank you for all you do for the community. Thank you for being an inspiration for us as well. And, I always tell people, if you have physical limitations, I can see them and I can help you. But if you have mental limitations, if you have decided you can't do it, what was the old expression from, was it Henry Ford, I think, said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. So, well, I can help people who have a physical issue. Maybe they can't lift something, or they can't turn a screwdriver, or they can't pick up small parts. That's super easy. But what I can't fix is a bad attitude or somebody who doesn't have the ambition. So building computers is very, very easy on the mental side of things, and it's fairly easy on the physical side of things, depending on what you're building. Although as we get older, we start to lose our dexterity, and things like arthritis or flexibility start to decrease as we get older. And for that reason, I've certainly had people contact me and ask me to build a machine for them, not because they couldn't. Well, let me rephrase. Because they felt that if they did it, they were likely going to damage something. They just didn't have the confidence. And since I'm not there to be by their side to assist them, they would prefer I just took care of it. And so, of course, I want to help as many people as I can help. The toughest thing that I deal with personally is telling somebody no. I hate telling somebody no. And I'm in a situation right now that I have gotten myself so deep into computers, so many of them here in Studio B. My main goal is to get them out of here by the end of the year and not do this again to myself. I thought when I was kind of collecting the parts to build, the reason I did it was I had a number of viewers, if you guys watched a couple of years back in Studio A, where they didn't order the parts we agreed on. And I didn't know that until I'm in the middle of a build and parts aren't fitting. I also have had viewers who didn't understand how to order from Amazon, because I would have them pay for the parts. All I did was build the machine, not sell it. And one customer ordered duplicates of everything. And so that puts a kink in my plans, because now I have to assist the customer on how to go through the Amazon return policy. And because the customer's in another physical region, I have to then take the items in my possession that are duplicates, and some of the returns will go to like a Kohl's department store, some go to the UPS store, it's not like I could take them all back to one place unless I wanted to pay for it. So like a motherboard, for example, might go back to Kohl's, and you don't have to box it. But you do have to make sure you have each return code. You have to make sure you've got all your ducks in a row so that you're able to present the return code for the product you're returning. And if you've got 9 duplicate products and 3 of them are going over, being shipped through this party for free, some are being shipped at UPS for free, and one of them was a Whole Foods drop-off, was the only free way. That ate into almost an entire day of labor sorting out that administrative stuff, which I never signed up for. Customer didn't do it on purpose, but I thought in order to avoid this in the future, what if I just ordered the parts and I started building the machines I wanted to build, and then I'd offer them for sale. And there were a lot of good deals that happened, and so I ended up, I went a little overboard. And now I'm trying to grab buckets and try and like a sinking ship, I'm trying to bail out this flood of computers. And it's benefiting many of you by receiving not only the computers that I have if they're giveaways, but also severely discounting the machines I have as an incentive to get them out. I really should be charging more, not less, for the amount of time and care that I take, not only in the building of the machine and the cable management of the machine, but also in all of the software I do. When you buy a computer from a retailer, you're going to go through 2 or 3 hours of Windows updates, and you have to answer a lot of questions. So that's all done when I do a build, and all you have to do is plug it in and turn it on and get whatever updates have come out in the period from when I shipped it to when you get it, when you receive it. And that makes it's a huge convenience for the customer, who can then just plug it in and get right to work. Bob R says he bought RoboForm with the carry discount and he's trying it out. Man, once you start using RoboForm, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Rick Hubbard wants me to check PayPal and see if he sent a PayPal contribution correctly. I'll take a look here, Rick. Let's see what we have. Yes, it looks like Rick sent $25. Thank you, Rick. And Bob R has sent a gift card. Bob R says, this is in support for what you do. I'm watching all of your videos and learning from each one. Thank you. And that's from Bob R in the chat room. And that's it. So, all right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rick. And thank you, Bob R, as always. I see Bob Connors contributed $10. He says, here's my being on time fee. I wish it could be more. It's never expected, but always appreciated. Thank you so much, Bob, for your continued kindness and support of what we're doing. Jason Willis with $5 says, thank you again, sir. And Joseph Zins with $5 says, Kerry, I really appreciate what you're doing. And as someone who plans on going into the tech industry, I appreciate your real world perspectives. Well, thank you. It feels good. Sometimes it feels like those most vocal are the ones not getting it. It just goes, and then they complain that they're not, that I'm the blame for them not getting the message. So it makes me feel good. So many of you actually are on the same page with me, and you understand the purpose and the logical reasons why certain steps are taken or avoided in the repair, building, and upgrading processes when you're running a company versus when you're tinkering at home. So, and that's the whole motivation for why this channel even exists, is to represent real work and the difference that it makes. And there are some people that are just a little obtuse, and they want to make sure you're aware of it, and that gets a little frustrating at times. But the vast majority of the viewers that we have are clearly on board, or they wouldn't be here. And if you're new here, I hope you'll stick around, and I hope that you'll be a part of our community here in the chat room. You'll see we have a lot of people that have grown to know each other but have never met in real life. And the only time they really get to see each other is virtually is here in the chat room. And we have lots of room for more people. I'd love to see the community grow with more kind and supportive individuals. Everybody, no matter race, religion, creed, color, gender, you're welcome as long as you're not a jerk. That's the only barrier. That's the only thing that'll get you kicked out, is being a jerk. And the lack of impulse control that some people have publicly exhibited is mind-bendingly shocking. And it's just sad, because those people might be some of the people that would receive great benefit from some of these giveaways, and yet they have blocked themselves out of ever being able to enter a giveaway. So that's the karma in play there, that you get what you give. And better to say nothing than to say something negative or critical. So we'll just let that, I'm just gonna set that there. I think it speaks for itself. Luke Greenia says, I need to look into a new router. My Netgear has become obsolete. I'm gonna be reviewing a TP-Link router, a Netgear Nighthawk AX8 router, and 2 Asus routers coming up in the weeks ahead. That might help you make a decision. Captain Linsky says, that's a sweet all-in-one. You know what? I thought so too. I was quite impressed, not only with how it still remains looking very modern, given that it was built in 2015. It looks brand new, and it's been well taken care of. The screen's not scratched up or anything like that. It's obviously been cared for. It had some dust, but I mean, we're in Arizona. There's nothing you can do about that. It's all cleaned up, and you're free to fill it with dust again.
I'm housebroken.
I've emptied the vacuum cleaner bag for you. This has become a vacuum cleaner, by the way. I got it. But yeah, it's nice and clean now. It's good to go. Ghost Shadow says he's not doing subscriptions to software. Yeah, well, that's your choice. My only goal here is to make sure that if people want to purchase that product, that I want to get you a discount. It's up to you if you want to buy it. It doesn't matter to me if you buy it or you don't, quite honestly. I'm not here to tell you that you should, and I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't. I would very much appreciate each individual making the decision that's right for them. I don't think you need to broadcast it to everybody, but we go back to the chat room here. Carrie, I'm sorry, Carrie, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Jason says, that's what I have in my big desktop. Someone gave me some DDR3 and have 6 slots, so I was handed 23 gigs of RAM, and it looked, oh, I took it, and the computer's running wonderfully. Right on. Yeah, if it works, it works. John Williams wants to know, is it better to have both UDIMM slots with memory in them? If you want dual channel performance boost, yes. Whether or not you'll notice it outside of benchmarks kind of depends on how you use the computer. But if you wanted to upgrade memory later, rather than getting, like say for Marvin here, we've got 2 sticks of 8. That brings us to 16. If at any point Marvin had plans to go to 32, then we should have just bought one 32 in preparation for getting, let me rephrase, we would have bought one 16 instead of 2 8s in preparation for buying a matching 16 at some point in the future. But if, in this case, we think the 16 is more than enough, it's a big jump from 6, to upgrade it would mean we'd have to take the memory modules back out and replace them all together. So there's not a right answer or a wrong answer here. It's just, what are your needs today and what do you anticipate your needs for tomorrow being? If you change your mind, it will cost you more money. If you were to go to a car dealership and buy a car, and you pay the sales tax on the car, you know, the tax, the registration, the title, and you drive the car for 3 months and you decide it really isn't what you need. You really need something more versatile or more powerful or something that can tow. And you take that car back to the dealership to trade it in, you will lose several $1,000s in most cases. And that will cost you more to do that than if you just bought the right vehicle in anticipation of what your immediate future needs would be. Sometimes we have to bite the bullet and take the losses when there are unexpected family events. If somebody would suddenly need a wheelchair and your vehicle has no way to handle a wheelchair, and you just bought that vehicle, and you can't afford necessarily to buy another vehicle and have 2 car payments and 2 insurance payments and 2 registrations, then you're taking that car back and you're going to take that financial loss, even though you probably, barely drove it. Regardless, it's a financial loss, and it's going to cost you. And much the same way, if you're going to add RAM to a system, you would want to fill up both slots, a pair, in order to have dual channel, assuming that the memory is sold as a pair and has been tested to work together. You will see a performance boost. But if that memory upgrade is temporary, it's just for now, and that you are planning to actually go to a larger amount of memory, then you would just put a single channel of a larger module in anticipation of buying another memory module of the same make and model from the same manufacturer of the same capacity to double what you have, without then wasting any money and having to remove parts that you previously had installed that now have to come out to make room for the new parts that you're adding. So that's a decision you have to sort of, it's like playing a game of chess. A lot of people live their life like it's checkers, move to move to move. It's very reactive. I'm a big proponent of being proactive and more like chess and anticipating what your next 4 moves are going to be and being prepared for what those moves could be, the multiple options and opportunities, depending on what the opponent responds with. You are already thinking ahead. If the opponent does this, I'm going to do that. And then they're going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. You've got to think several steps ahead. And in doing so, that will save you a lot of time and probably a lot of money. If you don't know how to play chess, learning how to play chess, I think, is a great lesson in learning how to play life. And let's see, we're just going to catching up here in the chat room, and we'll get back to the work. Tim Teal says hello. Hey, welcome in, Tim. And there's Bradley Morris saying hello to myself and Marvin. I see Alan Lindas in the chat room. Let me make you blue. Good to see you. Alan says, I've had good luck with ADATA M.2 solid state drives. He's got 3 of them. He's swapped out his mechanical drives out of laptops, and the improvement is amazing. Yeah, fully agreed. I think I've seen 1 ADATA SSD go bad, and I've only seen 2 SSDs go bad in my life. And I've still got flash drives from ADATA that are probably nearly a decade old, if they're not already, that just work. I've never had a problem with them. They're a bit slow compared to modern flash drives, but they work, and they work as well today as they did when I purchased them. Photo Mix Media says, Carrie, I love your educational videos. Keep them coming, please. You got it. Yes, sir. Probably shouldn't salute in front of Marvin. Probably not doing it right. Stand up straight, soldier. Steve Ducom says, I've got a question. I had an updated video driver with the Intel Update Assistant, and there was an optional video driver with Windows Update. Which one should I install? I would install the one on the optional Windows Update one first, and then it'll require a reboot. When you reboot, if Intel is still offering you a newer video driver, then get it second. And then go back to Windows Update. And now Windows Update shouldn't be offering you anything new for the video driver. And upon restarting after the install of the Intel video driver update, the Intel Driver Assistant should also not offer you any update as well. That should resolve it. And that's the order I would do it in. Quite often, once you do the optional Windows Update driver update, then the one from the Intel Driver Assistant will go away. But not always. I think I'm about caught up here in the chat room. Nicholas wants to know if I'm installing more memory than the manufacturer manual says. I don't know what the manufacturer manual says. The manual was written in 2015, and there are memory modules available for sale today in capacities that were not available in 2015, but there's been BIOS updates, I'm sure, that would require the manual to be reprinted. And the manufacturer has to pay an employee to do that. They're not likely going to. So if you buy something brand new and you're looking at the manual, then what you're reading is accurate. But as technology moves forward, and that includes BIOS updates, the manual does not reflect those changes. So you have to rely less and less on the manual for being up to date regarding any physical limitations of memory or storage, because those things are always advancing. And if something didn't exist in 2015, like a single 32 gig SODIMM probably didn't exist in 2015. And yet if I put a 32 gig module in here, or put two of them for a total of 64, with a BIOS update, I'm sure it will see it just fine, but the manual wouldn't be able to tell me that or confirm it, because it was written probably in 2014 for a product released in 2015 and was true at that time. I think a lot of people aren't paying attention to or giving consideration to when documents or videos they are watching or reading have been published. And so a lot of things you're getting are maybe well out of date, and you'd be better off going to a support forum to the specific product or to the manufacturer directly for questions like that. Generally speaking, whatever size memory is available, in most cases, will work on a machine provided a BIOS update is there. There's no difference in the physical hardware required. Now, I also rescued the data off of the mechanical drive that was installed, and I've got this little SATA-to-USB adapter, and I have a link for this in the video notes as well. These are under $10, and what's great with these is not only can we rescue the data off of a drive, whether, let's say, for example, you spilled something on your laptop and it won't start anymore, and you've got data there you need to get retrieved. Opening the laptop and removing the storage drive, since it wasn't wet, right? The laptop got wet, but everything inside, like the storage drive, wouldn't necessarily get wet, and even if it did, probably wouldn't hurt it, probably. So for under $10, you can buy one of these cables, take the drive out, mechanical or SSD, 2.5-inch drive. A 3.5-inch drive, you'd need a dock because those need power, but these little drives, they run off USB power, really convenient. And then you can, if you've got, let's say you upgraded your solid state drive from your laptop and you replaced it with a larger, faster model, you can repurpose the old, smaller drive that you took out and turn it into a little USB storage device. It's a little bigger than a flash drive, but it'll work just like a flash drive. And probably a lot faster than most flash drives. And that's a good way to recycle older equipment and keep it out of the landfill and give you more room for backing up anything that's important to you. So if your new drive were to fail, that you have a copy of it and you don't have an excuse to not have a copy of it when you still have a perfectly good working drive, and for under $10 you can repurpose it as a backup drive that's USB. And just because something is new doesn't mean that it's in good working shape. A lot of people will ask me that. They'll say, Well, how could this problem exist when it's brand new? Well, just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. And so usually with electronics, if it's going to work for about 30 days, it's probably fine for a number of years, most of the time. But there's other reasons why people lose data besides part failure. It also happens due to accidental deletions and viruses and ransomware and thefts and fires and floods and all sorts of reasons I've heard where a backup would have caused a lot less stress and anxiety and expense to the victim. I think I've got all the questions answered. Raj D just contributed 20 pounds. Hey, thank you, Raj. All right, so I think the first thing I want to do, we'll put power back to this, we'll turn it on, and let's see if there's any BIOS update available for it. So I'm going to step around here, and I'm going to try something different today. I'm going to grab an HDMI cable and see if I can run this into my capture card rather than the reflection on the screen. And it's more interesting to see this side, at least it is to me. You'll know when it's on because this fan will be spinning. And let's see, I need not just power, I also need, I'm going to need network on this as well. I'm trying to remember where I took this out from.
Power?
Oh, it's up here. I thought it was vertical, but it sticks out. Right there. I got it. And we'll plug in the network right here. And then I've got a keyboard and mouse I can use. I think I left those plugged in. Yeah, that's plugged in right there. And I left these turned on. So let me step around. This is going to get confusing for me because these keyboards are very similar. I'm going to move this over to the side. And I will grab my main camera window here and kind of put me in a corner. We're going to make it a little bit smaller. I want you to see the boot time on this machine. Are you ready? Let me turn on the HDMI input, and hopefully this will work. I think we're not going to see any video until Windows comes up, but we'll see what happens. Here's the power button. You should start seeing this fan start to spin. I do see some video initialization on this side of the screen. I've got the Acer logo, so there's no video output, just like with a laptop, to this external HDMI port until Windows loads that driver. So I expect that to occur right there. We're at the desktop. And I don't see any video coming out of this on the HDMI port. But we're already at the Windows desktop. So let me step around and make sure I've got the cable plugged in all the way. Sometimes I'm a little too gentle with these cables. Plug that in. Let me make sure the other end is plugged in. Yes, the other end is plugged in. So then the other thing might be that this treats that video output as a secondary monitor. Maybe that's what's happening. Let me take a look and see if the option of turning on monitor 2 is available in the Windows settings, in the display settings. There's our resolution. Multiple displays detect. Says it didn't detect another display. Well, what's the point of that HDMI port? That's very strange. Maybe I got to use this HDMI part on this side. Let's try that and see if we have better luck. That sounded better. There it is. All right. For a minute I thought I was missing something obvious. And I was right. All right, so let's do a quick check for any BIOS updates. The first thing I need to know is what BIOS we have. So I've got a flash drive here with utilities on it, and I'm going to plug this flash drive in. And I got to step around one more time. We'll use this connector here on the side of the monitor. And let's see, we want CPU Z, and we want Crystal Disk Mark Portable, just so we can kind of look at what our read and write speeds are to the solid state drive that we installed. It should be around 550. But let's bring up CPU Z and let's take a look at what the hardware is in this machine to verify that we in fact have 16 gigs of RAM and what our processor is, et cetera, et cetera. Because I intended to do that on the previous show and just didn't get around to it. So yeah, it's an Intel Core i3. It's a Haswell 35-watt chip, and it's running at, well, it's showing 3.2 gigahertz. The main board shows it's an Acer Aspire Z3-710, and we're running R01A1 from April 17th of 2015. So there's no way you can have a BIOS, I think, any earlier than that. I think that's the original BIOS. For memory, it shows we have DDR3, 16 gigs. Our specifications for each module, showing slot 1 and slot 2. Information about the built-in graphics, which are Intel HD graphics integrated. It's Intel HD graphics 4400. All right, so since we know we're on R01-A1 and we have an Aspire Z3-710, I'll bring up Microsoft Edge, and I'm going to type in Acer. I don't need to type in Aspire, just Z3-710 and the word BIOS. And Google's usually really good about the very first link typically being the link you want. Other search engines may not, you may have to dig down a bit. And let's click on this link and see what it presents us with. Can accept these cookies. Okay, BIOSes. There's only two. This updates the default year to 2016 during a BIOS reset. And the BIOS we have isn't even listed. Right? There's A2 and A3. We don't need A2. We only need the latest, so we'll download that. And that saves it. And then I'm going to extract the zip file by clicking on it. We're going to use File Explorer to open the zip file and show us what's inside of it. And then we're going to extract that into a folder of the same name. So don't be confused when you look in your downloads folder. You've got two windows that are the same. This is the contents in the package, in the zip package. And then this is the contents removed out of the package. So .zip means in a package. And without the .zip, it's the contents of that package. Now, you'll notice there's a few different folders here. This is kind of old school in that they have a folder for upgrading the BIOS through DOS, an EFI folder, a ROM folder, and a Windows folder, meaning that apparently you can update the BIOS through a Windows application. So I'm kind of curious about that. I'm going to double click, and I'm going to run this AFU WinX64. We'll double click it, and click yes. And let me close out some of this noise so we can focus on this window right here. Usage, okay. It's all well and good. Press any key to continue. More command line switches. That's unusual because that's not really a Windows application, that's a DOS application. So they kind of lied to us. And then if we go look back at, all right, let's take a look at DOS. That's a batch file. That's generic for every, same thing here. So so obviously ROM is the .cap file is the one we need, just like ASUS. So I'm going to copy this file onto a flash drive, and then I'm going to go into the BIOS and see if I can upgrade the typical way you see me upgrade, the old school way. So what I'm going to do is close this, remove my utilities flash drive. We're done with that. I'm going to plug in my BIOS flash drive. It's a small 2 gig flash drive with nothing on it, so I don't select the wrong file. Well, I have an old BIOS here. Let's get rid of that one. Now there's nothing on it, and we'll paste that .cap file. Then I want to reboot the machine and enter its BIOS, which I think is F2. So when the machine reboots here in just a moment, and you did notice how responsive the machine was when I was clicking on things. It was no longer hesitating. As soon as I lift my finger up off the button, delete to enter the BIOS menu. Uh-oh, I didn't catch it in time. All right, I gotta wait for it to boot again. And I might as well just turn it on camera 1 for now, since you guys can't really see anything there. And desktop just came up. That's how fast it boots now. I am going to restart one more time, and this time I'm going to have my finger prepared to press delete. Right now it's processing a Windows update, so it says getting Windows ready. Now it's restarting, and the screen went black. There it goes. I'm going to start pressing delete immediately. I'm now in the BIOS, which I am fairly certain is not HDMI out. Yeah, you guys can't see it. So I'm in the BIOS itself. I'm going to scroll over to, I don't think there is a flashing utility in this BIOS. There isn't. Okay. That's all right. I'm going to exit the BIOS. I just want to look one more time just to make sure I'm not seeing it. A lot of these all-in-ones, they don't want the customers updating their BIOSes. They want you to call tech support and have tech support walk you through it so that you don't end up calling tech support because you did it wrong. Now, I've got the desktop coming back up. There, now we're at the desktop, and I got some exclamation on the Windows account protection. Dismiss that. Browser control we want to turn on. Okay. Let me go back to this input here, and let's take a look at the downloads folder again. So the old school way of flashing the BIOS would require, I guess we can run flash.bat. Maybe that'll work. Let's run it as administrator and see if that executes in Windows. It didn't. So that even though it says it's for Windows, you really have to open a command prompt. So let's go to command prompt and let's run it with elevated as administrator. It's elevated privileges, or just elevated as they might call it. And I think I want to rename this file to something, or this folder rather, to just BIOS. All right, that's just gonna, because I have to type all this in. So I want to go to cd backslash, you know what, I don't want to have to type in this whole chain of stuff. Let's see if I can just move this into an easier directory to work with. Let's go back to the C drive, and let's make a new folder, call it the letter A. No, I didn't want to do that. I want to take this and cut this. They made this really more difficult than it needs to be. I'm going to get rid of that. And I want to take the ROM file, this cap file. I want to copy it. I want to put it right here. And I want to take these files, and I also want to put them right here. I want to show you why I'm doing this. It's going to make my life a lot easier. I go cd backslash A, and now those are the same files. I should be able to simply type in the command of flash and hit enter. And as you can see, it is doing the BIOS update. Well, it isn't. It says it's having a problem opening the file. So that suggests to me that it's looking for a file in a certain directory. So let's take a look at the batch file and see where it's calling the file. I see. So all I have to do here, it wants it in \A, should be the change I need to make. See why I kept the name real short, so I can do this very quickly. And we're going to try running flash again. Now that's working. That's a very old-fashioned way of doing things. Either that or you need to make a boot disk or a boot USB or a boot CD. It's silly that there's not a graphical user interface or tool in the BIOS in 2015. But again, these computers are not made for enthusiasts. These aren't really machines that the vast majority of owners would never, ever update their BIOS. And if they wanted to, they likely wouldn't understand this process. The only reason I know it was this was the only way you could do it back in the day. So we're about 33%, as you can see on the screen here. I'm glad I'm able to capture this process on screen because it's not one that's seen much these days, and it's a great learning experience for those of you who are being introduced to the technology and weren't around or didn't have the interest back when this was common. Now we're going to have to reset the machine for the BIOS effect to take effect, so I'll just type exit. We can close this and choose to restart. And while it's restarting, I'm going to take us back over to camera 1, and we'll take a look here at, oh, you know what? Let me go back in the BIOS, because I want to always, anytime you update your BIOS, you always want to reset the BIOS defaults. And I've got videos showing why you do that. I've got videos showing that sometimes, like, sometimes when you're after you've updated a BIOS, some settings get corrupted. Like I've demonstrated where the solid state drive performance dropped dramatically after a BIOS update. And that by simply going into the BIOS and then loading the defaults, the optimized defaults, and then restarting again, it addressed those issues. And that's one example of a plethora of different variables that can occur after a BIOS update. So just to avoid having to deal with that, I'm going to go over to the BIOS here, load default settings, yes, and I want to make sure that we're in AHCI mode, and we are, and there should be nothing else I have to check, so I will save and exit, and we're going to restart it, and I'm going to go ahead and put it back onto the video output of this machine here in just a moment. Here we go. Okay, it's starting up. And I expect that we'll have the screen up in about 3 seconds. Look at that. And we're at the desktop. Oh, this thing is so much better. Now, if I go back to CPU-Z and I run this again, instead of the BIOS being A01, it should be A03. So we're here on the motherboard tab. Sorry, R01-A1 is now R01-A3. When I said it out loud, I mixed the two together. All right, that worked perfectly. So with that, we can run Crystal Diskmark, and let's take a look at the performance of this Samsung 850 solid state drive we put in there. I'm only interested in the sequential read and writes because that's the best you're going to do. I don't care about the other numbers. As far as a big file loading or saving, that's of what's interest to me is the best the drive could possibly do. And we want to be somewhere around the 550 megabyte range on both sides. Injected Fuel has contributed $10. Thank you for that. And we'll make sure Injected Fuel is blue. And Nameless has contributed $10. Thank you to Nameless as well. And we will add you as a moderator as well. We'll turn you blue. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your kindness and for your support. All right, so these are the numbers. We're looking at 546 on the reads, 522 on the writes. That puts us in the ballpark I was looking for. Anything between, say, 500 and 550 on a 2.5-inch solid-state drive is about the best you can expect. It's in the arena of what we're looking for, so good enough. I'm going to go ahead and delete this directory, delete that directory. I'm done with those tools. That's why I use the portable versions. There's no uninstalling. And I'm done with this folder where I kept the BIOS. I don't want the user to wonder what that is and click on it and potentially cause harm. So we're going to not only delete it, but also empty the recycle bin to ensure that no mistakes will be made. And then as far as the flash drive is concerned, I want to delete that so I don't confuse myself. And so that BIOS flash drive remains available, empty. I want to dismiss this warning so that we have all green check marks down here. And I am going to shut this machine down and switch back over now to camera 1 and start to put it all back together now. Oystein contributes 100 Norwegian kroner. Thank you, Oystein, for your continued support as always. Oystein watching us from, must be Norway. Good to see you again. I think Oystein's been joining us now for 3 or 4 years, maybe more than that. So to put the back cover back on, all these cables have to come off because even the USB dongle for the keyboard and mouse will interfere with the installation of the cover. So we've got to take all of that out. And then I've got to clear some space on the desk so I can lay the screen down on this towel so I don't scratch the screen. It's in such great condition, it'd be the real shame if I'm the one who scratches it. I'll let the owner do that.
I'm good at it.
You're good at scratching the screen?
Betcha. I'm a journeyman.
Journeyman screen scratcher? All right, let me just set this gently down. Now these speakers, like I said, they kind of rest on these posts and they won't stay when the machine is vertical. But I can set them on the posts now and gravity will hold them in place until we get the back put back on. And then of course that will lock them in place. The speakers aim down and there is a left speaker and a right speaker which are opposite when you're looking at it from behind like I am. My left becomes the right when I'm looking from the other side of the screen instead of the back of the screen. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this bracket off. There's that. There's that one. Okay. Marvin, were you attempting to take the back off of this ever? Because the screws that hold it in were missing.
This was sent to Best Buy.
So you had this at Best Buy, and they had it apart and they didn't reassemble it correctly. They left the screws
I
out.
put it in there to help correct the problem with it slowing down or maybe increase the hard drive. And they said they couldn't transfer the information and put it back together and give it back to me.
So they didn't give you back, they left out the screws.
Oh, did they?
We don't have them. They're not a standard screw. They're not something I have extras of. But the cover snaps in place so tightly, I guess it won't really matter. It's an OCD thing. Don Allen contributes $25. He says this is to help with shipping costs of the giveaway computers. Hey, thank you, Don. And Roy Starman with $10 said, wow, I haven't seen a batch file BIOS load since the early 2000s. Hey, you know, what can I tell you? When you get some of these real basic consumer machines, or even basic business machines, they don't have the bells, whistles, and features that the enthusiasts want. That's not what they were made for, and it's not who they were intended to be sold to. Okay, so I've got the cover here. It's all cleaned up now, nice and clean. And I should be able to just set this back on. It should go on a lot easier than it came off. I have dusty fingerprints. I was so focused on cleaning the inside, I didn't clean the outside, but we'll get that with Windex.
We're going to set it right back down in the dust anyway.
Yeah, but it won't get that dusty overnight. You're going to have to work on that. It's going to take some time. And then we should be able to just click everything right back into place. Just like that. Any final opportunity to clear out the dust, I've got my little electric duster with the brush. All clean. Now this piece, this stand goes in with these tabs going in first on an angle, and then we let it rest straight down, and it should align with the mounting holes perfectly. And I'm going to start with one screw on this side, and then I'm going to go to the opposite corner on the other side, and one more time here. And finally, the last screw here. Now, this screwdriver has a clutch setting, and I've got it very, very low because I don't want to strip any screws out, and I'm typically not using it to secure, you know, something heavy like this. So I'm going to manually check the amount of tension that's on these screws and how tight they are. I'm going to give them just a little bit of a turn until they come to a complete stop, and it just helps prevent it from coming loose over time, especially as if the monitor kind of wobbles at all, if the desk shakes and it causes the monitor to wobble, the screws will start to back themselves out if they're not tight enough. And then eventually the monitor won't sit straight, and then that could be another support call of what's going on there. Now this plate just covers up the screw in the hinge, and that's going to slide in either this way, or is it this way? I guess it's got to be this way. And once you align it, you should be able to just push it straight down. I guess it wanted this side in first, and then the bottom, you should hear it lock in. There it is. Oh, it's heavy. And that's what the completed upgrade looks like. And then we'll turn this around, and I'll show you guys a live boot time so you can see the screen the same way that I see it. We got a lot of reflection happening there. Just put it like that. Let me give it some power. It's over here. Okay, so if you're watching at home and you're curious what our boot time looks like now, here we go. Press, start counting. I haven't hooked up a keyboard or monitor because I won't need one. This is a touch screen, and there's nothing more I need to do to it with configuration or anything. I don't know what size the screen is. Do you know what size the screen is, Marvin? I think it's like a 27. It's probably in the model number.
27 sound, looks like it might be in that range of 27.
You can look up, if you Google the model number that I've got in the title, it should have a link to the specifications. It's a big one, I can tell you that. Looks to me about 27. But you saw what our boot time was there, and it's quick. If I tap the power button and let it go, you'll see it cycles off, and it's off. Does it seem faster to you, Marvin? Does that seem faster to you?
It is tremendously fast.
Yeah, it's a big difference. And working on it wasn't so frustrating when I didn't have to wait for it to respond every time I clicked. All right, and let me go back over to the chat here again. There's Brian Witzenberg contributed $4.99. He says he loves the video. Thank you, Brian. Ian Gooch contributed 10 pounds. Sorry, I missed that. He says, hey, Kerry, here's just a little something for your coffers to keep the videos going on this channel. Thank you, Ian. Yates Networks. Boy, I missed a bunch here. Yates Networks contributes $10. He says, Kerry, thanks for all that you do. You're a good human being in a crazy world, and I appreciate your work. Thank you, Yates Networks. Stan Haristov with a £1.79 says, happy Friday, Kerry and chat. Joseph Zins contributes $5. Kerry, I really appreciate what you're doing. As someone who plans on going into the tech industry, I appreciate your real-world perspectives. Well, thank you, Joseph. Not sure if I read Joseph's earlier, but I'll read it again if need be, just to make sure I'm giving those shouts out to these generous folks who are contributing to what I'm doing, which is sharing my knowledge and my experience. And of course, thanks to Marvin for presenting some of these challenges to me that have resulted in some content I would not have otherwise had. Go Shadow with $2. He says, I forgot the RF cover for the motherboard. Oh, you're right, I did. You're absolutely right. There is an RF cover, and I can see why I missed it. It is not in front of me. So I will pop this back cover back off and put that RF shield back on. It's not a critical component. It's really there for FCC regulations, but unlike Best Buy, poor Marvin, everybody opens the machine, isn't putting it back the way they found it. Thank you for catching that. I will open it and do that off camera. I see now, I usually keep all the parts over to my right, and the I/O cover is down here, and you think these screws that I've got sitting here, you think I would have seen them, but that's okay. I will, it's no big deal. Now that I know how this comes apart, I'm very confident taking it apart will be no problem. And we also have Marvin's dongle here, which is mentioned by Dr. Bill's mentioning not to forget to give this back to you. That was left in. Yeah, thank you.
Mouse.
That's the mouse? Yeah, one of the reasons I leave everything out like this is so, like if I would have taken this dongle and placed it over here, I would forget. So I try to not put anything else on the bench. If I had to move this computer to work on something else, that's where I would get in trouble, because then that something else may have parts I have to store for it. And so what I'll usually do is grab a Ziploc bag.
Shake it up.
Yeah, sure, why not? We can just glue that back together. No, that's good. Thank you for calling out that. Completely missed it. And yeah, and John Williams with the reminder. Again, thank you guys. Duncan wants to know, were you trying to be like Best Buy? Well, apparently I'm qualified.
Over it.
I can leave parts out too. At least I'm not a surgeon. Hey, I need you to come back. I left my scalpel in there.
No, they're still practicing medicine.
That's right. That's a practice, just like law. They're just practicing. Awaken says he looked up the specs and shows this screen is 23.8 inches. Is there a 24 in the model number? Because usually the screen size is in the model number. No, I don't see a 24 in the model number. That's interesting. It's not a rule, but
Man, it seems like it's larger than
it
that.
does seem bigger than 24. Of course, it's measured diagonally. Interesting. Well, I appreciate you looking that up. It's an interesting curiosity. Any other questions you guys have? I'd be happy to address them. Oh, yeah, they're pointing out there's a big border on it. I think the border makes it look like it's an inch bigger. Maybe 2 inches bigger because you got each side versus actual screen size. Bob R says, Marvin has a new PC. Yeah, it kind of is like an all new computer now.
My wife does, not me.
Oh, that's true.
I've got a better one. Silver Slow.
All right. I guess I'll start taking this apart now. Not like I got anything else going on. I mean, I could, but you're not leaving without it, so I might as well start on it. If you missed the first video where I took this apart, then it's your lucky day because you'll get to see me take it apart for the first time if you haven't watched the first video. If you have, you'll get to see me take it apart the second time. Let's hope there's not a third time.
When you use your restroom.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
First door on the right.
down the hall and to the right. Yep.
I saw you coming out right after you came home.
All right. Let's take a look here. Got my iFixit spudger tool. The link for this is in the video notes below the video. And since I mentioned that this top went in first, and when I initially took it out, you know, I was kind of guessing. So I didn't have a choice. But now that it's fresh on my mind, I know exactly which end to start with, which is going to be this side here where the slots are, which of course are the easiest ones to get to as well. But if you have questions for me while I'm doing it, please feel free to ask, and I'll kind of look up from time to time, and if I see it, I will do my best to provide you an answer. Am I going to load the Samsung Magician software, and would it make a difference? You know, I could load the Samsung Magician software. There's no driver, like with an NVMe drive, there's no Samsung driver, but the Magician does help as far as making sure your drive firmware is up to date and any sort of drive information. Now, Marvin's wife isn't going to have any use for that or benefit to it, but it also wouldn't hurt to put it on there, so I appreciate that reminder as well. Could certainly put it on, assuming the 850 is compatible, but it's easy enough to just load it and see if it's seen. There we go. So yeah, that side comes out first, and then we should be able to just move this towards me and lift up on this side of it, and it's going to slide out towards you. There we go. Easy peasy. And then I'll just take those 4 screws back out on the base. You see, once I've done it, it's relatively just a matter of routine process. It's not as fun when I'm not, you know, experiencing something the very first time and I have to figure it out. And of course, you can read manuals and cheat, but I prefer. I find it fun, you know, to just try to figure it out on my own. And with all the experience I have, like if I can't figure it out, then that's really poorly engineered. That's my opinion. All right, so you see that just comes right off. Now I did have some struggle separating the back panel last time. Let's see if it comes off a little easier now that I know what I'm doing. I know that the clips are on the silver part, And so that's the part I want to push, away, rather than trying to bring the black plastic backing up. Instead, I want to pull the silver plastic away from the black and then pull the black plastic up. So with the spudger tool, I should be able to get in there. And yeah, just knowing how those clips work will make it a lot easier for me than it was the first time when I didn't know where they were or how they clipped, if the clips were on the black side or on the silver side. And they are on the silver side. Now you can imagine if you were working in an IT department where a company had a lot of these, you would probably have a specialty tool, and it would probably come directly from Acer, working with the company that you're working for in IT, where you'd be cracking these things open all day and there'd be nothing to you. It's just practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the better you get. They say you need 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, 10,000 hours of experience. That's the general rule. So if you've never done something before and you're watching somebody else do it, and it seems like, they made it look easy, the best example would be playing a piano. Any good piano player will tell you practice is critical to becoming a good piano player. If you just want to play piano once in a while, you'll probably never be very good at it. Gainsy95 with a 20-pound contribution wants to know how he can send an Amazon gift card to me. The Amazon gift card link should be in the video notes below the video, but it has to be from Amazon.com in the United States. I cannot take an Amazon gift card that's not in US dollars. It would require me to order from Amazon.co.uk if it were in British pounds, and then the items would be shipped across the pond and it would take forever. So you should be able to create an account, I think. I have to ask somebody who's done it in England how they do it. I'm not sure. You can always contact Amazon customer service from your Amazon account and ask them how you can send a gift card in American dollars, in US dollars, to a recipient in the United States to use at Amazon.com. And I'm sure they'll be more than happy to explain that process. Amazon's customer service is fantastic, and I don't know what the process is, but there are people that have been sending me Amazon gift cards in US dollars from Britain. I'm just not sure what that process is. And speaking of which, Peter Laycock sent an Amazon gift card earlier, and of course Peter watches us from Bonnie, Scotland. Oh, this is coming out a lot easier. I enjoyed it so much I wanted to do it again, Marvin.
I see that.
Sometimes,
You're a perfectionist.
you know what? Sometimes I see that goal line and then that's all I'm looking at. I get so focused on that, I kind of wasn't paying attention to those extra screws. Once I have unclipped the bottom and about half or so of one side, the whole thing will probably just open right up. So be patient when you're doing this. See that? Just like I said. And then again, when you're lifting off this top part, we don't want to break off any of the plastic clips. So if you can maneuver it without any tools, that's beneficial so we don't potentially gouge. But on the other hand, if it's a choice between a little gouge in the back that nobody's looking versus breaking the clip, then the back won't sit correctly. It'll have a little warp in it. I'll take, you know, a gouge over that. Well, let's hope not. There it goes. Well, that was a lot easier the second time around, let me tell you. Okay, so the RF shield just sits right on here. It's got holes cut out for the USB and power and everything that go there. So it only fits one direction. And I'm done with the spudgers. And this spudger toolkit and the IFixit Jimmy spudger are listed in my video notes with links to Amazon where you can buy them. If you make any purchases from Amazon using, you know, my links, I make a small commission, just so you know. If you make any purchase from Amazon, having been directed to Amazon from my link, I will make a small commission on any purchase during that website visit that my link took you to. So in other words, if you clicked on the Amazon link for this IFixit Jimmy, and then while you're at Amazon, you search for something else, and you buy something else and you don't buy this, because my link took you to Amazon, I will make a small commission on any purchase you make, and you're not charged any more for it. It doesn't make any difference from your side of things. So it's a nice way to support the channel. I don't know who's buying, but I can see what has sold. That's the only information I get. Let me put this back on 3. There we go. There we go. Haste makes waste. Moving a little too quickly there. Okay. Gonna need this again in just a minute, but I just need to get it out of the way. Speakers are situated correctly. Cables are all aligned properly. All right. Nice. And then this piece will go on like so. And okay. Nicholas Heglini contributes $6. He says, "You're working too hard today. Very interesting, though." This isn't work. This is play. I get paid to play. Work is when, for me anyway, when there's a lot of pressure. Hey, our server's down. We have customers waiting. I've got employees on the clock that I'm paying who aren't able to work. You need to not only get over here right now, you need to fix it quickly. Every minute we're down is costing us money. And we won't be back into a positive cash flow situation today or be able to help our customers until you get our systems up and running. That takes the fun out of it, let me tell you. That's what I wanted right there. You know, growing up, computers were these giant machines that took up rooms, and the people that used them were wearing white lab coats and appeared to be, you know, have doctorate degrees. And now it's just snapped together plastic. How we have progressed, huh? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm familiar with snap together plastic. We had models we could buy of cars and battleships that required no glue. All right, let me power it up one more time, make sure I haven't broken anything, and then we should be golden. Got my power cable here. Bring this around to here and plug this in and turn this on. Here we go. Phew, no smoke is coming out.
Not yet.
Gert wants to know if I'll be copying the data from the old drive to the to the new solid state. I already did that. I guess you didn't hear me when I said it earlier, and I was talking about the adapter. But because we're talking about somebody's private data, we wouldn't want to broadcast that for fear that there could be some personal information or file names that you know, would require blurring the screen out or something for consideration to the customer's privacy. So that was done off camera for that reason. There really wasn't much on it to move. There really wasn't. Maybe a gig, 2 gigs at the most. Johnny Weld says, great job, Kerry, as always. Awesome. Thank you, Johnny. Well, let's make Johnny blue in here. Kind words are always welcome. I appreciate you. Robert Jones contributed $2. He says, Kerry, this is for you, being real. Thank you. Well, I just find it easier, less effort. But thank you. I'm glad you appreciate it. William Cregan with $4.99 says, Kerry, did you listen to the guy who told you to change the thermal paste? Laugh out loud, just kidding. I couldn't help it. Yeah. I like people sitting in the back seat telling me how to drive. It's wonderful. I mean, who wouldn't enjoy that? The Samsung Magician. Let's load that up and see what happens. I got it right here on my utilities flash drive. It'll only take a second.
What is it?
The Samsung Magician software.
Oh, okay.
I got to step around to see what I'm doing. In fact, I'm going to need a keyboard and a mouse too. So let's find a USB port. Right there. And we'll go to Samsung Magician, installer. I'm just loading it right off the flash drive. And then click OK. And next, accept, next, accept, next, install. And then we're going to know here in just a moment if it's going to see this drive okay. And we'll have it down here. And we're back to that yellow exclamation point again. Keeps wanting us to set up one drive. And they can do that if they want to, if they have a Microsoft account and they want to sign into it. And then to see if there's any firmware available, we'll obviously have to plug it in to give it internet access here. Let's see, we'll grab this here, plug it in there, and then we come around and let's see what happens. There's a hard drive activity light blinking down here, and it was loading the mouse and keyboard because I plugged it into a different USB port. And every time you move anything you're plugging, like a flash drive or any other USB device, it will reload the driver each time you plug it into a port it hasn't been plugged into before. And where's my Samsung Magician software? That's Cortana. Samsung Magician. Yes. It's not apparently running. Let me restart it just to make sure that there's nothing else running in the background, an update or anything like that. We're going to restart, and then we'll see if the Magician starts with Windows on the reboot. It's kind of an interesting result. And Ray Cut says, very cool. Very good job, Kerry. It's nice to see you in action. I've learned a lot from you. Thank you, Ray. Let's make sure Ray is blue in here as well. There you go. David Loeb says hello. Welcome in, David. All right, let me. Gainsy95 with a 10-pound contribution says gift card is sent. Thanks for the great content. Well, thank you, Gainsy95. I appreciate you. Let me step back around one more time. And I'm looking down on the system tray for the Samsung Magician. Oh, I forgot that's a touchscreen. For the Samsung Magician software. There it is. It just loaded right there. We pulled this up. It shows the Samsung 850 EVO 1 terabyte. It's had 4.8 terabytes written to it, and it's probably got a lifespan of about more than 10 times that. So it's well good for the life of this machine anyway. Drive details. It tells us our serial number, firmware edition, tells us we are in AHCI mode. We hit update here. We can verify we're running the latest version of the Magician software, and the latest firmware is installed on that drive. So I don't know why it didn't start after I installed it. That was kind of weird. But sometimes these things like to be rebooted on new software installs. So I'm not going to worry about it. And yeah, the touchscreen should be fine. If I hit the window, hit power, and shut down, that should power everything down. And then in order to get this ready to return to Marvin, there's a few little buttoning up processes here, which is to make sure I get my dongle back and to make sure Marvin gets his dongle back. Be ashamed to have to drive a half an hour and back and forth to pick up something so tiny and small. I had left one of these in a computer once that I mailed to a customer in another state, and I asked them if it was there, if they would mail it back. And they put it in a regular paper envelope, which is processed by machines, and the machines squish the envelope, through the wheels that go through the sorting machines, and it caused basically slid the dongle out through a tear. It pushed it with such force through the sorting machines that it ripped right through the envelope. And so I received the envelope, but it was empty, and there was a little tear on the side of it. So if you are going to ship things like that, you got to make sure you put them either into a small box, like a United States Postal Service priority mail shipping box, or a bubble envelope that's taped closed. Okay, that's my utilities flash drive. That's my network there. That's his power connector. He's going to need that. It's proprietary for this machine. You want the old RAM for any reason? Okay, I'm going to give you back your old storage drive with this cable so that you won't have to use a powered dock. Marvin mentioned he has a powered hard drive dock, which will work with 3.5-inch or 2.5-inch drives. But these drives, these small ones, they don't require power. So all you got to do is just have this little adapter, and any small drives you have like this, whether they're mechanical or SSD, this is a great little tool to have. Enclosures are not necessary. But because this is mechanical, as you're aware, they're fragile. If it was a solid state drive, you could probably drop it around and no problems. But with these...
One of those enclosures right there in that box.
Oh, you've even got an enclosure. Yeah, so the enclosures aren't necessary as long as you have the adapter. All right, so we're done with this RAM. I'll move it aside. And what did I do with your dongle?
You had it right over
Oh,
there.
it's right here. I've got it. And I don't know, do you have a preference where you want this put back? On the side or behind it?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and I'll put it on the side here.
I don't have one of those, it's a keyboard and mouse combined
Yeah.
with one dongle, so I've got to put another one in for her keyboard, and that one's for her mouse.
Oh, yeah, that's why I like these keyboards and mice, that I can use the one dongle for both. Just one less thing to worry about or lose. You want to come say hello? He's getting up. Let me have you stand in front. Let's walk up front here.
Say hi to the chat room.
There he is. There's the man.
All these good folks and my new friends. And they're keeping you company.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot
I'm
of.
enjoying it. Now that you got this of it, gets me out of the doghouse.
Yeah.
Even though we got
For how long? How long are you going to be out of the doghouse?
I don't know. She's using
I'm gonna stand right behind you.
Silverstone computer.
Oh, the Silverstone case. Yeah. We've got.
A handcrafted one, and she's probably got all the dogs around her there watching it.
Well, you better say hello.
I did.
Oh, okay. To her?
I stepped on here.
Okay. No, I meant for her.
Because I got a duck.
Oh,
No, hi Layla.
that's our life
She's got
there.
a little sweetie there too.
Yes, is Layla? Layla?
Layla.
Layla. Hi, Layla. All right, she's checking in on you, I guess. Everybody in the chat saying hello to you there, Marvin.
It's sure good to see all of you. Thank you for all your input and support of Carrie's.
Do you want another?
Doing a lot of good for a lot of people, and I sure appreciate it. No, thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna grab another drink. Was just checking in. All right. Yeah, we appreciate you, Marvin, and wish we had met a long time ago, but I'm glad we've met.
Well, COVID got in the way,
Indeed, it did quite a bit.
but that's all right. It was meant to be that we get together, and you've done wonderful things for me.
I'm
sure appreciate it.
so happy that circumstances have brought us together, and that we're able to share your story, your experience with your computers. Did you ever hear from the folks that
Nope,
like
not a word.
computers? Nothing. Same old, same old. That's too bad.
No phone calls, no emails,
No voicemail?
nothing.
Well, I guess what
I
they
didn't
say and
expect
what
to hear from them.
I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Some people talk a good talk, and then when it comes to doing anything, they walk the walk but don't talk the talk.
Yeah, well, as soon as he started making excuses, we were having a hard time at that time period, and no, that's a fly-by-night outfit. I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, he told me the same thing, and I just said
Well, I
that.
was going by what he sent you.
Oh, yeah,
He
okay.
hadn't communicated with me at all.
I got you. I got you. Enforcer P says
The
so.
ones that referred me to him, I say referred to me, I watched them on here, and they did a review of the Light Industries, was the Toasty Brothers, and they really talked them up, so I've got a hold of Light. They need more butter on their toast.
You know, maybe at that time it was a different
could be,
company,
well-
right? I mean, I don't know the Toasty Brothers.
At
I've
that time,
never.
that's when he said he was having all the problems.
Was that you think it was a paid sponsorship, maybe?
I don't know, they didn't
Yeah.
say. They review a lot of stuff, and I don't know if they're paid or not. I like them, they do, but they're more into the gaming side of it anyway.
Gotcha.
You know, like Jay's 2 cents and Linus.
Certainly know those content creators. I've never heard of the other one though, the Toasty Brothers.
Toasty Brothers, They're a little bit smaller, they're not as big as the other two guys.
Yeah, there's not many that are as big as the other two guys in this genre. Yeah, Enforcer P says hello from one Vietnam vet to another.
Welcome home, brother.
Bob R says give Marvin a Gatorade. You want a Gatorade?
No, thank you.
All right.
I don't handle reptiles well anymore.
All right.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks you guys so much for hanging out with us today, and I'm glad we were able to get this project buttoned up officially so we can move on to the next one. I'm sure Marvin's wife is anxious to get her machine back. And,
Later, I'll get that power cord before I forget it.
oh, I was going to get that for you. You don't have to do that.
You got it?
Well, it's plugged in there.
Yep.
Okay, if you insist.
You know I got it right at my spark.
Well, then I'll have to call you Sparky. I thought that was my nickname.
Sparky?
Well, from some people who maybe have witnessed some mistakes early in my career, which we don't talk about. Aaron wants to know if I solder as part of the repair process. Aaron, I mean, I don't know where you're located, but in the United States, the physical labor cost of soldering, unless we're talking about a very expensive piece of hardware, it is often cheaper and faster and more guaranteed to work to simply replace the part. You know, when you get a water pump on your car, they generally take the old water pump off, put a new water pump on. So how we're defining repairs may vary depending on the country that you're in and the value of the equipment. If you have some very expensive iPhone or, you know, smartphone, and it's still relatively new and has quite some value left in it, then to pay somebody to do a manual repair out of warranty might be worth it. However, usually by the time technology goes out of warranty, it's not worth it to do any sort of physical repair because of the cost of labor and the fact that in many cases, whatever caused that repair to be required may not be part of the repair. Let me give you an example. Let's say you've got a board and it's got some busted capacitors. And so the job is to replace the capacitors, but not necessarily to understand why they burst to begin with. Is there something earlier in the circuit that perhaps caused it? And not all people who do work do equal quality of work or as thorough in their diagnostic and repair, resulting in, you know, being without your device for the length of time it takes to repair it, only to have it back to realize there's still more problems, and you keep repeating this over and over. If you buy another one, the problem is solved immediately, you have a new warranty. But, you know, even with, we go back to cars, even on high-end cars where we've now got these CVT transmissions, 10-speed transmissions, very little is being done to repair these anymore. They will just pull the transmission out and put a new transmission in it, or one from a junkyard if it's out of warranty. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's likely not going to have any forgotten parts not put back in, or missed parts that were built completely wrong, where it's going to inconvenience you. So back in the day, when parts were more expensive, I did do board level repair. I don't anymore. I turn my soldering on maybe 3 times a year, and it's very, very minor stuff, very minor stuff. I might have a switch where the wires come off of it, and I just want to resolder the wire on the switch rather than replace the switch. And if the switch is part of a case design, and that's the only thing wrong with the case, and the alternative is to buy a new case and gut the whole machine and rebuild it into the new case over one stupid switch, I'll solder it. I had a machine that came in that the wire had come off, and I soldered it and it came off again. And I soldered it again and it came off again. So the third time I soldered it real good, and then I covered it with hot melt glue so that as the cable's moving around, it's not breaking free of the connector anymore. And that was what was happening, and that's been fixed ever since. But as you can imagine, I wasn't thrilled doing the same job 3 times. There's not a lot of money in it, and it's not a very difficult job to do. It doesn't require any electronics training to solder a wire on a switch. But that was frustrating for me and the customer. On the other hand, tearing their whole machine down and rebuilding it into a new case didn't sound appealing either. On a couple of the 200Rs I've got in the past, I've had to replace the whole front panel because the switches are surface mounted to the circuit board. So you have your power switch, reset switch, audio output, microphone input, USB header, all on this little circuit board. It's all surface mounted, so if the micro switch breaks, you have to basically either get another micro switch and resolder, which is no thank you, or you just take that whole front header off and you get another one from Corsair. And Corsair even makes them available for most of their cases at their website. You can buy them, but if you're in warranty, they'll send it to you at no cost. Let me take a look at email. Some folks are mentioning email here, so let's take a quick look and see what's come in while we're live here and interacting with one another. Miguel Torres sent an Amazon gift card of $10, and Ross Whitehead has contributed an Amazon gift card. And I'll have to talk to Ross. It's a very generous gift card from Ross. Thank you. $10 comes in from Chris Johnson. Chris says thank you. And $20 comes in from Barry Klein. He says, here's a Jackson for the TechBusker tip jar tonight. Thank you. And Bruce Fergus contributes $19.07. He says, I used one of your videos to build my current PC. Right on. That's awesome. I appreciate you. Thanks you guys so much for supporting what we do here and for encouraging me to make some more content. I've got a number of reviews I need to do, as I mentioned earlier, about the routers. I have some interviews I want to align, as I mentioned earlier. Still in talks with Acronis, trying to work out a deal with them for a deal for you. Have I got a deal for you? And I have a couple more giveaway PCs. There's 3 more veteran PCs yet to give away. I've shipped out 5 of those last week. And then the 2 winners of the machines that I built, I've got so many people running through my mind, I can't think of their names. was it TJP and Steve H. Those machines are waiting on cable management. They're built and configured, and Windows is installed and activated. All the software and all the hardware stuff has been done. Once I get the cable management done, I'll be able to ship them, and I hope to get that by the end of next week. And like I said, everyone I get out of here, it's like, I get a little more elbow room in here.
Well, if I come around.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to come around anytime. And I'm just looking in the chat room. If there's any final questions I can answer for you, we're going to otherwise wrap it up for today. So I just want to give you an opportunity to interact with me. If there's a question or something on your mind, speak now, or don't say I didn't offer the opportunity. Peter Laycock is saying goodnight. He's in Scotland, where I think they're 9 hours ahead of us. So it's probably around midnight there. Thank you, Peter. Thanks for joining us as always, and thanks for your continued support. Master Singleton says, nice to see Marvin happy and healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, hopefully we're all happy and healthy. And scrolling through the rest of the chat here as I bide my time with this 90-second delay between when I talk and when they hear me. So if there is a question or something on your mind that you want to say, you do know that you have my attention right now. Conleth Burns says, bye from Ireland. Sorry I missed you. Let's make sure Conleth is blue in here. I've been seeing Conleth a lot. So welcome to blue if you're still in there. Ricky B. Hey, Ricky, welcome in. Paul Garrett says, Carrie, thanks. You've taught me so much. Well, thanks, Paul. Hope you stick around, and there's more to come. Ricky B says he noticed a new type of drive, U.2. U.2 is an old type of drive. That's all been mostly phased out, and where it was used is primarily in servers. I think I hear an ice cream truck. Frankie McAvoy says, hello from Waterford, Ireland. Just getting over St. Patrick's Day. Well, sounds like you had a good time. I'm going to party with you. The Greek says this was a great two-part series. Well, thank you, and I do intend to edit out a lot of the chit-chat and keep it just to the work and post it as one full video from beginning to end as soon as time permits me to do that. And Boss says it's been a fun stream and he can't wait for the next one. Yeah, you and me both. I had a good time today. Certainly, I don't enjoy having to defend myself against some people that come in and try to challenge me, but thankfully that mostly has gone away. And of course, with all of you in blue staying on top of the attempts that were even made today, I never saw them, which I suspect means you guys shielded me from that. And I appreciate you for doing that. And that's nothing you have to do, but the fact that you would do that for me is it's one less thing I got to have split my attention.
The chat room's good at that. Good for that.
They are good at that. And I think they enjoy it. I think they're like, it's like whack-a-mole.
Betcha.
Don Nielsen says, great show as usual. Hoping all in the chat, of course, that Marvin and his wife are having a good weekend, and as well to you. Yeah, I hope you all are going to have a good weekend. And Thank you again to Gainsey95 and Nicholas Heglini, Robert Jones, and William Cregan. Gainsey95 again. Ghost Shadow, Roy Starman, Don Allen, Brian Witzenberg, Oystein, Injected Fuel, Nameless, Raj D, Ian Gooch, Yates Networks, Stan Ristoff, Joseph Zins, and Jason Willis, Bob Connors, PDK Gamers, Michael Taylor, Mark Baggett, Peter Laycock, Ross Whitehead, John Jack Wilson, of course. My thanks to Marvin, and thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. And we will see you probably Monday. Thanks to Luke Greeny as well. Luke wants to know, oh, he's not asking. He says, thanks for another great stream, and I look forward to the router reviews. You and Marvin have a great night. We will, if you will. Luke is in Vermont, where I wish I was right now. Be a lot cooler.
I'm a dying old desert boy.
Yeah, you've been in Arizona a long time.
Native.
You're a native Arizonan. Yeah, that's right. You're part Native American, aren't you? Yeah.
But, no, I'm from Nogales.
Wow. Nogales is on the border, southern border of Arizona and Mexico.
Runs right through the center of town.
In fact, there's a Nogales, Mexico, and a Nogales, Arizona. And it's literally side by side.
It's called Ambos Nogales.
I love how you pronounce the Spanish words. You obviously take the time to respect the language. I don't do that.
We had to when we were kids. We had to grow up in both languages. You had to
Oh, so it's probably
speak Spanish and English.
very natural for you then. For me, it's an effort. I grew up in Detroit. Nobody spoke Spanish.
You bought it.
We could speak jive, but nobody speaks that anymore.
No.
And John Powell's in Vermont. He says it's 50 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. Wow, Celsius would be super hot. 50 degrees Fahrenheit in Vermont. Oh, that sounds lovely. Their temperature right now, what do you think it is? We're in 90s?
Well, we're supposed to hit the 90s today, yesterday or today. 91.
93. But it did say 91 until I refreshed it, so a little earlier. You're not wrong. And my friend Ron is joining us from Sun City, Arizona. And yeah, it's 95 Fahrenheit there. It's too early for 95, Marvin. I know 100's around the corner. And this studio, it doesn't get the air conditioner struggles. All the more motivation to get these computers out. Well, the weather's not terrible because that saps my energy.
Yeah, it will.
And Brandon Pickworth says there's snow for tomorrow morning in Michigan. He must be in northern Michigan. William Dawson wants to know if I'd take 65 degrees. 65 is like perfect. It's not cold, it's not hot. And in Maryland, Skeeman says it's 59 degrees Fahrenheit and cloudy and probably humid. And John Paul Bacon, 58 degrees Fahrenheit in Federal Way, Washington. I don't know when I became the weatherman, but it is kind of interesting to see the temps around. And Aaron, Computer Tech, says it's 71 in Central Florida. It's a good time of year to be in Florida. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I will see you all again very, very soon. My thanks to all of you in blue, to all of you who will soon be blue, I hope, and to our contributors, to Marvin, not only for presenting us this opportunity for this unique content, but of course a service to the country as well as all other veterans. And I will see you all again as soon as I have time. Could be Sunday, could be Monday, could be Tuesday. I have a couple computers I need to get out on Monday, and that will take my priority. And then, time permitting, I'll have another live video. I've got plenty of content and not enough time. Thanks so much. I will see you all very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.